You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
Study confirms what many suspected. The 2024 election was rigged based on an article by Tom Hartman. The feed was the campaign. Power sat with the owner. The source story is about TikTok, X Meta and YouTube, but the real subject is power, who gets to shape political reality at scale. That is not the algorithm in the abstract. It is the people who own the platforms, design the ranking systems and decide what gets amplified, buried or normalized. The article gives the clearest evidence where it matters. Republican-seeded accounts got more aligned content on TikTok. Trump's videos were pushed more widely than Harris's. Musk's own posts and MAGA accounts got a measurable boost after his Trump endorsement, and Meta's leadership quickly pivoted toward accommodation once Trump won. Those are not accidents. Those are institutional choices with political consequences. Algorithm is a cover story. The piece is strongest when it stops pretending these systems are neutral and says they are tilting the field. It is weaker when it leans too comfortably on the word algorithm, as if a machine made these decisions on its own. Machines do not set priorities. Executives do. Owners do. The people who control recommendation systems decide what engagement means, what gets optimized, and which ideology gets rewarded by default. Calling that an algorithmic mystery is convenient for the companies because it hides authorship behind technical flaw. The asymmetry is the point. This is not a story about everyone being manipulated. It is a story about right-wing power using private platforms to flood the zone while shielding its own audiences from democratic and anti-MAGA messaging. The study cited in the source found that TikTok fed users under 30 moved 10 points toward Trump between 2020 and 2024. The article also points to X shifting users toward more conservative positions and YouTube funneling right-leaning users toward extremism. That is not a marketplace of ideas. It is a distribution system for reactionary political conditioning. The source is right to reject symmetry. The platforms are not merely reflecting public opinion, they are laundering and intensifying one side's power. The billionaire class did not stay neutral. Elon Musk is treated in the article as both donor and amplifier, which is accurate enough to be damning. Mark Zuckerberg is described as a politician of his own kind, publicly neutral until power changed hands, then immediately scrambling to appease Trump and MAGA. TikTok, Google and YouTube appear as corporate infrastructures that can shape turnout, attention and candidate visibility without ever asking voters for permission. That is a deeper scandal. These companies do not just host political speech. They structure the conditions under which speech succeeds or fails. They are private governors of public life, and they answer upward to capital, not outward to citizens. The causation problem. The source claims this rigged information environment helped put Trump in the White House. That is a political judgment, not a settled empirical fact, and it should be said plainly. The study cited in the article shows asymmetric amplification and measurable shifts in exposure and attitude. That is serious enough on its own. What is not needed is mystical overreach. The point does not depend on proving a single causal lever that gave us Trump. The point is that a handful of platform owners built systems that consistently advantage the right, degrade shared reality, and reward authoritarian messaging. That alone is an institutional failure of democratic magnitude. Burn down the myth of the free feed. The article's policy instincts are mostly right, transparency, antitrust, and stronger legal accountability, but the sharper conclusion is simpler and more political. These platforms have become electoral infrastructure, and they are controlled by billionaires whose interests are aligned with the political right. That is the systemic error. The public was told these feeds were neutral tools for connection. In practice, they became privatized propaganda channels with no meaningful democratic oversight. If democracy is supposed to survive, it cannot be mediated by a handful of executives treating political reality as an engagement product. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Alternet for today's article. With the automated voice of Arctic, thanks for listening.